yet. And of course, also my gratitude to the Indian management, who has made, a lot of you actually would be familiar with communications because the Indian National Council, which is the IIAC, has made it mandatory that every temple has a communication representative. And that's the importance they have given to communication. So my heartfelt gratitude to you for that. And what we will be doing today is just starting very much with the basic introduction of what is communication and why is communication so important for leaders. So you all are budding leaders in ISKCON, and some of you are actually accomplished leaders leading projects. And we'll just take a little insight, and especially so, I just want to begin the session with offering our humble obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, because there wasn't any better communicator than him. And what we're going to look at now is actually that, how Srila Prabhupada laid the foundation, and it is he who we are actually going to follow in relation to our communication guideline and principles. So I'm just going to go through a little slide here, and I can screen share, right, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just put on my screen and we'll just go to this part. Yeah. Just give me 1 minute and I'll just come to it. Yeah. So is it possible? You can see the screen, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what we are going to see now. Is we'll be starting with Srila Prabhupada, and this presentation is actually Srila Prabhupada, the greatest communicator, because that is what he was. And we know that Srila Prabhupada was actually known for a lot of different accomplishments. And you'd actually talk about all these different accomplishments that he was known for. Yeah.
Mataji, we are not able to see the presentation. We are able to see the file explorer window.
Oh, you can't see the presentation. Okay,
No,
let me just stop share and start again. Just 1 minute.
Yes, yes.
Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So that's we are starting where he's actually speaking in appreciation of Srila Prabhupada, the Prime Minister, the ex-Prime Minister of India, where he was actually very favorable, and here he speaks about Srila Prabhupada, and we have a lot of other leaders here. Yeah, I'm just gonna we have so here we have a scholar who is actually talking about Srila Prabhupada, that he was such a genuine holy person. And here we have some of the different achievements of Srila Prabhupada. This is how we know Srila Prabhupada as somebody who circled around the globe. He had 5,000 disciples. Srila Prabhupada built 108 temples, started the Rath Yatra across the world, and Srila Prabhupada, of course, published Srimad Bhagavatam, the books, and farm communities, restaurants, and this is our understanding of Srila Prabhupada. And today we want to just move ahead and a little bit understand Srila Prabhupada, that he was such a super excellent communicator. And this is going to help us to actually give an insight. And after we finish, it would eventually help you to understand, reflect that how Srila Prabhupada on so many occasions, reasserted this fact that he was such an excellent communicator, and what this actually did for ISKCON in the future. So we can see as in a definition of who is a communicator. Srila Prabhupada was the excellent communicator, and a person who is a communicator is somebody who is skilled at conveying information, ideas, feeling, or policies to others, who makes things known, who joins and connects, and the most important is that who can change the behavior of others. So this is the space of transformation, and this is what Srila Prabhupada did, that he transformed not in the sense of getting people to chant 16 rounds, but just being with them. He transformed their thought process. He transformed their perspective. And that is how we see that, you know, he was what is a good leader and a good communicator would actually be able to do this. And this is what ISKCON communication strives to do, is it strives to create and sustain a favorable environment to advance the goals of the Krishna conscious movement. And what we are trying to see now is that how did Srila Prabhupada strive to create a favorable environment for ISKCON. So though Srila Prabhupada was a spiritualist and he was spending his nights writing the Srimad Bhagavatam and he was connecting with his devotees, Prabhupada never ever left the opportunity to connect with a scholar, with an academician, with a media person. In fact, he was always proactive and he would tell his disciples that please arrange for these meetings and please arrange for these people to come and see and meet me. I'm just gonna show you some images here of some people. I don't know if you can identify some. It's just a little interesting. If it's just a little general knowledge and what they have in common. So if you would know who he is, a very, very integral part of the history of ISKCON. Here we have somebody else, looks like somebody who's from a sports background. Again, somebody who is popular. And of course, I think everybody would know that this is the ex-Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi. So all these people actually, of course, have something in common, is that Srila Prabhupada met each one of them. And here is a partial list of the people that Srila Prabhupada met. And if you look around in the list, it's amazing. You can see that Srila Prabhupada met with the Prime Minister, he met with a scholar, he met with a businessman. So you can see here we have J.K. Birla, who is a leading businessman. Here you can see Lieutenant Mosley, who is the Chicago Police Department. One of the pictures that we saw, what I mentioned, who was the sports person, was actually Sterling Moss, and he's a famed Formula One race driver. And when Srila Prabhupada met with him, all Srila Prabhupada spoke to him about was cars. He was just discussing with him about cars, trying to understand from him about cars. And there was no mention of Bhagavad Gita, nothing to do with Srimad Bhagavatam, and it was all what was of interest to Sterling Moss. Of course, we also had the first picture was Allen Ginsberg, which is the poet, and he's such an integral part of the Hare Krishna movement. We, of course, know about George Harrison, the Beatles. Here we have a whole list of politicians, including the mayor of Geneva from Switzerland. We have Thomas Hopkins. He has been a very favorable scholar in relation to his connection with ISKCON. So you can see what a wide variety we have here. We have Bishop Kelly, who is from the Catholic Church of Victoria. And these are all the public figures which Srila Prabhupada met over the span of time. And of course, besides this, he met with countless members of media, neighbors, parents of devotees, religious leaders, government leaders, and other VIPs. So this goes us to show that, you know, Srila Prabhupada was always very, very proactive in his communication strategy and in his belief in relation to communication, which would make us think that what was his purpose if he was writing Srimad Bhagavatam, if he was building a religious movement, if he wanted to build temples. Why was he connecting to race car drivers, with politicians, musicians, and media, and just so many people from different varied walks of life? So we are a little bit going to unpack this now, that what was Srila Prabhupada's purpose in meeting all these different people, businessmen, politicians, and poet, the church member, the police department, and one would ask that, was Srila Prabhupada trying to convert them to becoming Vaishnavas because he was writing Srimad Bhagavatam, he was building 108 temples, he was starting a movement, And did he actually want all these people to join his movement? So is that what was Srila Prabhupada's goal when he was trying to connect? And this is a very important quote here. Sorry, I'm just going to read this out, and please, I think you can actually write it, screenshot it. It's a very valuable comment which is made, which actually should be known by every communication devotee. Prabhupada, says this to Tejas Prabhu. And the quote goes, if you make some of the big government officials interested in our movement, then our strength will increase. Because we are in the material world, sometimes we require that help. Another point is that if a government officer becomes our admired or member, then many others will follow. So try to make them sympathizers. So this is the key. This is the crux of what was Srila Prabhupada's understanding in when he was trying to connect to people from all the diverse spectrums of the material world. And it's so important where he says that we are in the material world and sometimes we require their help. And this is one of the reasons he says that, it is so important. We see this line here where he says, so try to make them sympathizers. And this actually should be something that every communicator keeps in mind, that so try to make them sympathizers. We are not here to convert them. We don't want to make them devotees. If they are interested in Krishna consciousness, if they would like to chant, they would like to visit the temple, that's wonderful, that's a bonus. But Prabhupada himself, these are his own words that, just try to make them sympathizers to what we're doing. And these are some of the people Prabhupada very largely connected to, especially with the government leaders, scholars, media, religious head, parents of devotees, neighbors. Prabhupada was always very, very considerate. If you read some of the books written by Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they actually talk about when Prabhupada would be leaving for a walk, he would always be very thoughtful to stop by the neighbors, be considerate to them, talk to them. So this is the importance which Srila Prabhupada gave to all these different people. But again, he was just trying to not convert them, but to make them sympathizers. And we need to understand them that we don't have to be overzealous, over fanatic at any point of time, thinking that, or let me just try to, make them devotees, let me chant and, save their souls. No, it's okay if you cannot save their soul, just get them to help you in your efforts in Krishna consciousness, and that would be good enough. So the question which we would ask, and why this presentation is, because when our team actually were working towards making this presentation, we were thinking that we always think of Srila Prabhupada in terms of we follow him in book distribution. Book distribution is so important. We follow Srila Prabhupada in prasad distribution in relation to how to study the books, how to build temples. So the question is that why not follow Srila Prabhupada's example in relation to his communication skills and strategies? So that's what we are going to reflect on, and that is why I wanted to actually start the presentation with understanding how our founder was thinking about how to engage these people and how we follow Srila Prabhupada in relation to communications. And this is Prabhupada's communication strategy that you can see. Prabhupada actually wrote to the New Vrindavan leaders. He was invited to visit New Vrindavan, but he actually rescheduled his program because Shyam Sundar Prabhu had organized a festival in UK. And you can see what an interesting list of, the itinerary is so interesting that we have the Indian High Commissioner, we have, one of the most popular musicians there, George Harrison. We also have a day where they are expecting people 5,000 people, young people to attend this event. We have a businessman day where Prabhupada is going to address, and we have some businessmen who are going to be a part of it. Prabhupada will be part of the Neighbors Day and the Intellectual Day. So you can just imagine that Srila Prabhupada postponed his travel and his visit just to be part of this event and connect to all these people and just talk to them about ISKCON, introduce ISKCON to them, and that was what we call his strategic policy in relation to communications. So, like you can see here, this is also a very famous photograph where Srila Prabhupada is getting interviewed, and Srila Prabhupada took a lot of opportunities to actually connect to the media, to speak on radio, television. And here we can see he's connecting with Lal Bahadur Shastri, is actually giving him a book, connecting to politicians. So that's the crux, that how can we better to follow Srila Prabhupada's footsteps as an expert communicator. So this is how we want to understand this. The perspective of communication is that we want to understand communications as is understood by our Acharya. And that's where I want to close at and reflect, and I hope this really helps you all to get a little insight that next time when you think of when you read a quote of Srila Prabhupada in relation to book distribution, in relation to prasad distribution, just in relation to Bhagavatam, you also would think of Srila Prabhupada as an expert communicator. So I would just stop to share the slide there. And of course, this comes from ISKCON Communications. This is our website, and ISKCON News and ISKCON Communications. So yeah, for more information, you can always visit here. So I'll just stop sharing my screen there. So I was just looking for a little feedback. If you could just have like maybe just a 2-minute feedback as to how did you feel seeing this aspect of Srila Prabhupada, and do you think that this would help you to get a better perspective into communications? So if anybody would like to share from the group, I would really like to hear. And anybody? How did you like to get an insight into this aspect of Srila Prabhupada as a communicator? Is it the first time that you thought about this? Had you thought about this earlier? And what did you learn from this? Just, we had this 10-15-minute presentation. If anybody would like to share, I think that would be very helpful. Just maybe 1 or 2 devotees.
Yeah, Mataji, I'll share.
Yeah, sure.
This tells us about the broad vision that all of us need to have. It's not just important to do what you are interested in, but also to work to translate it and make other people also understand the importance of what you're doing. Otherwise, what you're doing is really important. There is no doubt about it. We are not discounting that. But then it stays within a closed group. If you really want to work on a worldwide movement, then you want to invite other people also, and to make them understand the importance of what we are doing. So without communications will stay a closed group, a small group, but then we want to invite, Gaurnita is saying, invite the whole world, Jara Dekha Taraka. So I think this is a very necessary perspective, and Prabhupada has exemplified it by his own efforts, that how we need to reach out to others and make them understand the importance of what we are doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. When I read that quote the first time, that Prabhupada says we are in the material world and we need help of these people, it was such an eye-opener for me. So anybody else would like to share anything in relation to this PowerPoint as to how, any 1 or 2 points you would like to share as to any insight that you had in relation to this? Okay, if not, we will just move ahead with, and then I would actually want to extend what we want to share in relation to communication with what we saw right now, and that is the legacy that we are going to follow and what we are going to look at. Yeah, sorry, we had Prabhuji raise his hands. Yeah, Prabhuji. Sure.
I want to share, Mataji. We had a big congregation program in Delhi in 2015, Janmashtami program, and we invited Harshvardhan.
Mm.
He was a health minister at that time, and we had more than 20,000 people participated in the Janmashtami in Delhi CBD ground. And he said, "I have never seen Janmashtami like this." After doing Abhishek, and he saw all the arrangement, everything, and he congratulated us, that this is a very good Janmashtami. First time I'm doing the Janmashtami.
Yeah.
So that was a good from response.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So we are going to just little bit learn about communications in the footsteps and in the legacy of Srila Prabhupada, what we just saw now. So I'm just going to share my screen and just, share the PowerPoint here. Yeah, so can you see Prabhuji? Just wanted to check.
Yes, yes, Mata.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so this is our opening and introduction to ISKCON communications. Usually we have Anutama Prabhu does the first part, I do the later parts, and it's just the opening and understanding of ISKCON communications, what we do and the purpose. And so our lesson 1 is what you all are part of the GBC college, which is GBC has managerial authority of ISKCON. It's UMA as they call it. And all of you are leaders in your respective fields. So how is communications important to leaders, and is communication important to leaders is something that we are just going to unpack in this very small session. But even before we move forward, we're going to little bit talk about, we learned a lot about the area of who is a good communicator in relation to Srila Prabhupada, but we are going to little bit now focus on the word leader and what is a good leader, who is a good leader, and this is what we have here. A leader is someone who knows where he or she is going and gets others to willingly and happily follow. So here is the key. That you want to have people follow you, but you want to have people follow you willingly and happily, not grudgingly, not with resentment, not with force, because it will not bring the transformation that it needs to, but somebody who has that power and who has that personal example of being able to willingly and happily have other people follow him. So that is a leader. And this is all what you all are, or what we all are aspiring to be in ISKCON, that we want to make a willing and happy transformation in lives of devotees and everybody's life who we touch. And what we are going to unpack now is that how are we going to do that in relation to communications as leaders, and what is our mission, what is the mission of ISKCON communication for a leader. And I just want to show the slide. Is anybody would like to just try out and just say, what do you see in this slide? What is happening here? Anybody would like to share?
This is plowing the soil, making it ready for sowing seeds.
Sowing the seeds. Okay, so he's just plowing. So what is happening is you're plowing the ground, you're tilling the ground, and you're softening the ground. So that's what you're perfectly right. It is an effort this man is making to till the field. And we understand that there is something that he plans to grow here. It can be a field, it can be a garden, it can be grains or whatever fruits, vegetables. This is the basis. And then we also have an image here of a ground which is not being tilled. It's just a barren ground left as it is. And what you see is that nobody's putting any effort. And this is a little bit in a graphic sense. We are trying to understand what is communication doing. When you are trying to, in the material world, make an effort, you want to grow something, you soften the soil, and that's the first effort which is done. So you could be having the sunshine, which you can see is there. You can be having the water, you can be having the seeds. But the preliminary effort is in tilling the soil. And we actually see what happens. These are the two different, you can either sow the soil in picture one, where we see the field is being plowed and somebody is after that sowing the seeds, and there is the picture two, where it's a barren land and somebody is sowing seeds, and we can see what could actually be the result. And this could be the result if you did a good job of tilling the land, the soil was well prepared for the seeds, and then it was nourished with good water, sunshine, care. This is what would be the result. It is a result of the efforts which are pulled into tilling the field. And if you have another where you don't put a lot of result, you probably would have barren land. You would just have something growing there. You probably have a lot of weeds which start growing there. So this is what an ISKCON communication devotee does. This is a graphic representation of the picture which we see on the left hand side is what the devotee does. We all are the level one who are actually, when you see the funnel, and I'm not sure if you all are used to that faith funnel, but we are the first in the line of communication with the material world and what we call the public, to actually connect with them and till the field for all our ISKCON devotees to eventually, work towards striving to grow the movement. And what is it that we are trying to do? So this is our mission, the communication mission, is to create a favorable environment. And that favorable environment for us is actually to create a Sankirtan friendly world. So every communication devotee, and it's not just devotees who are specialized in communication, but every leader in ISKCON should strive to create a favorable environment to help Srila Prabhupada and to help our mission to actually create a Sankirtan friendly world. Because when you have the mission of ISKCON, of all the missions, this is one of an important mission that we are trying to create a Sankirtan friendly world. So this is, this I would actually say is our job description, that we are here to create a favorable environment and to till the soil. And I would little bit expand on what is the ISKCON Communications mission statement. This is the mission statement. ISKCON Communication works to create and sustain favorable environment for advancing the goals of the Krishna conscious movement. So we have so many areas of Krishna consciousness. We have prasad distribution, we have our books, we have our festivals, we have our neighbors. It's just endless how many areas of Krishna consciousness are part of our movement. And what the communication devotee does, it is creating a favorable environment to help all the other brothers and sisters in ISKCON to advance in the goals of this Krishna conscious movement. So that is our mission statement for ISKCON Communications. We are, I don't want this to be a one-way, it's just so boring when somebody is just speaking on one side, and especially when it is at 3:30 after a nice lunch. I really don't want you all to go to sleep during this presentation. And even besides that, I mean, it's nice to have an interactive exercise because it actually helps us to understand the practicality of what we're trying to do. So I would really be grateful if you can have a computer, pen, pencil, whatever is convenient for you. And you can just do this exercise. We are going to give this exercise probably 10-15 minutes, where you are going to write in your own words and where you will actually explain on what you have seen. And I will share what we are going to explain here is that communication skills are important for ISKCON leaders. So you are actually going to write now that why communication skills are important for leaders. You are a leader in your area. You can be a Sankirtan leader. You could be in charge of prasad distribution. You can be in charge of the youth department, new bhakta, whatever it is. How do you think that communication skills are important for you as a leader? So that's one point you would write something about. The next point is why communication is so important to the ISKCON society in achieving its mission. So this is somewhere where you can actually go and think of Srila Prabhupada and the different slides we saw there. Why communication is important to ISKCON society in achieving its mission. So above is you, the individual, and now we are talking about ISKCON, the society of which you are a part of and of which you are a leader of. And third is how important was communications to Srila Prabhupada. So that would probably be the easiest because you just saw the slide where Srila Prabhupada, actually states in so many quotes how communication is important. So we have 3 questions here. We take 10 minutes where you can sit, write, and reflect, and just do this as an exercise for yourself. Of course, I would really be very appreciative if 2 or 3 devotees can come and share what they wrote, because it would help the others also. But please consider this as a personal exercise for you to reflect on what we have done so far. So I'll just give you 10 minutes and you can just write this. We have anybody want to come forward?
Mataji, devotees have raised their hands.
Okay, because I can see the screen, or maybe you want to call out their names, Prabhu, because
Yeah, so
I can't see their names.
Brajendra Krishna Prabhu and Subhadra Mataji.
Okay. So we have Mataji go first, and then we can have Prabhuji. Yeah. Yeah, Mataji, please, Subhadra Mataji.
Yeah.
Share. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Yeah, Hare Bol. I was thinking, I am thinking in situations in Netherlands. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so there
Where are
you
based
have.
from? Sorry.
Yeah, so I am thinking this situation in Netherlands, in Holland.
Okay.
So you have more access if you have communication skills, then you have more access with different kind of people, society, community, and different groups like youth and old people, and also with the government. If they are appreciating, then you can do more things there. You need always there to know people to get things done. That is my.
Perfect. So that's wonderful. You get better access to
Yes.
the different important people in the society when you are a good communicator and a leader has a good communication skill.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. We have Prabhuji here. Would you like to share? We have Rajendra Krishna Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Yeah, actually, in ISKCON, in a society like ISKCON, we find that most of the people, or at least at leaders level, the intent of everyone is good only, but it is the misunderstanding or the communication gap between the people which causes the main problem. So, whatever time I spend in management, I found like 50% of the problems are because of communication gap, because of one party unable to explain his part to other. So intent is not an issue within the society, what I experience, but it's the communication which is causing problem. And in fact, even if you go to Mahabharata and see the example, like how there was a communication gap between Amba and Bhishma. So because of that, there was such a big problem. We saw communication gap between Bali and Sugriva. So in that way, we can understand how important
Yeah, I think
communication is in.
between leaders. I think you're also talking how it is important that different leaders communicate. I mean, before we try, that is such an important point actually. And I think a lot of times we are not able to accomplish what we have the potential to, because I think there is so much of, gap, misunderstanding and miscommunication between the leaders themselves. And this is what we call in communications a challenge in internal communication, where you are not able to open your heart, where you are not able to connect. And what we said, we have that example of a leader where he is willing to make, willingly he has devotees following and make a transformation. And when that aspect is missing, is where you have a challenge in internal communication. And if that is not looked into and if that is not sorted out, what you said is actually what is the fallout, that you could know all the principles and guidelines of communication, but you would not be able to make an impact because the house is not in order, as they say. So thank you for that point. I think that's so valuable. We had Nandu Dulal, I think, yeah.
Yeah, Mataji. So I really, like this point of Rajendra Krishna Prabhu, that so many conflicts are basically lack of communication, lack of proper communication thing. So that's very important. In addition to that, two other points I had.
Mm. Yeah, you want to share?
You're mute, Nandulal.
We have some comments
Is-
in,
Yeah,
in chat box also. We have some. Yeah, Nandulal Prue is back here.
Yeah.
Oh, was my voice not audible?
Yeah, we just lost you for the last
Okay.
30 seconds, Prabhu. Yeah. So,
Okay, sure. So one of the points that I wanted to mention in addition to what Rajendra Krishna Prabhu mentioned is that the intention of our movement is not to sell things. Actually, the intention of our movement is to influence people, to change the way they think, to change the way they take decisions in life and like that. So without a good connect with people or without a good image of our movement among general society, how will we ever expand our movement? It's not just about book distribution, but it's also helping them understand why these books are giving them a good way of life, a good alternative. So without a good image, nobody will purchase our books. No, without a good image of ours within general society, when we are doing Sankirtan, they will see it as some strange thing. But when they know we are good people, when they know that what we are doing is meant for their benefit, and that will happen only by good communication, then they will welcome our Sankirtan, then they will actually purchase our books. That was one point. And second is that in this modern world, there are many so-called spiritual movements, which are basically cults. They don't have any philosophy. It is mainly driven by a person. But ISKCON has such a strong philosophical basis, which is rooted in scriptures, which is rooted in practical life also. So, good communications also helps us to imbibe on people that ours is not a cult. It is based on, like Varnashram, we may not accept Varnashram principle. The general society does not accept Varnashram principles. But in one sense, the whole, when they select somebody for a job, like in high corporations like Google and all, they actually check the mentality of the person. In one sense, they are going for subtle Varnashram. So when we imbibe on people that we are not a cult, we are based on strong philosophical principles, which are basically eternal philosophical principles, then they will really look forward to us. They really want to associate with us, to learn from us. And you mentioned, can we mention some practical points? So I remember some years back in Kazakhstan, because there was a misunderstanding between the devotees and the government, difference in opinion. So they actually usurped all the land of ISKCON Kazakhstan. His Holiness Bhakti Bring Govind Maharaj was leader there, and he had to undergo a lot of difficulty. Even now, I tried to find out some information, but they are still facing difficulties from the Kazakhstan government. So this has happened in one country, probably because of a lack of exposure, because of a lack of proper understanding, this can happen in any other country also. So I think we need to be very proactive about our communication to establish good relationships with the government, not just to flourish, that is always there, but some strange places on this planet, it may be necessary even to survive.
Hmm.
So these are some points which I felt need ISKCON society to invest in good communications.
True. I think you are very right in saying that in some areas of the world, it's a big challenge. And I think being an Indian in India, the land of Dharma, we actually don't realize, but we see actually that a lot of communication devotees struggle in different parts of the world, especially Europe. You can see some parts, I think it's much better in Russia now, but in areas with Brazil, some parts of China, where it's such a challenge for them because they are such a small minority that they hardly have any influence, and they have to draw upon strength from so many other different organizations and so many of the other audiences which are around them to actually make themselves, to communicate to people that yes, we are valid, we are not a cult, and we actually have something genuine to offer. So I think that's a very important point. And I think before that, I was just noting down that you also mentioned about that it's important that we are well connected. And when we are well connected, we are sharing a good image. And when that happens, so that well connection is what something which we can connect with tilling the soil. That when we do that job of connecting to different people, we are actually walking our talk. It's not in the pages of Bhagavad Gita and pages of Bhagavatam, but we are, as Mukund Maharaj would always tell us as communication devotees, that we are not an armchair philosophy, we are a living movement. So we all are, going out, real-time people, connecting with so many real-time audiences. We are connecting with youth, with our leaders, with congregation members. So thank you for sharing that point. I think there's 2 points. That one is that we are not cults, and we need to make people understand that. And the second is that we need to have good connections with people outside, so that we can make the influence in the other areas that we are actually trying to preach and connect. So thank you for that. We have Rush. We have one more, Prabhuji, but I can't see your hand, Prabhu. I can just see the, because I just have a slip on the side.
Mataji, I want to talk about the first point.
Yeah.
Communication skills important for ISKCON leaders. So that I found, many times, sometimes media people, they are targeting ISKCON, like regarding the youth, they are becoming brahmacharis. And there was a big program controversy in the India TV. Everybody has seen that.
Yeah.
So there, whoever is our leader, so we should have our best communicating leader, expert leader should be sent in the media. Sometimes if you don't have expert person going there, and we are not communicating properly, communication is not there, so it gave a bad impression, and that was not happened in that particular India TV thing, and it gave a lot of bad impression about ISKCON. And whenever we go anywhere, people are telling that you people are making everybody brahmacharis and all, And I'll give you one example. I was in Mumbai in a waiting room. There was a big police officer from Delhi, and he was sitting just next to me. He told me, just come, I want to talk to you. So I told him, what about? He said, my son, he became a brahmachari in ISKCON. So, and then I started talking to him. We have a train after 2 hours. So I explained to him, like Hanuman, he's become a Ananya devotee of Lord Ram, and everybody is worshipping Lord, Hanuman. So same way, your son has become Ananya devotee of Krishna. We are making him a great devotee of Krishna, so you should worship him. He was beating his son every time. So after hearing 2 hours explanations, he was totally convinced, and the image of ISKCON was totally changed in just 2 hour meeting. And he told me that nobody has communicated him till now, this thing. The impression was totally changed. Now he said, I will go and worship my son. The image was totally changed just because of communication.
Yeah. Yeah, I think communication extends into every aspect of a life. You can be flying from one city to another, go to the airport and connecting to so many people are watching you. You can be in saffron and your actions, you are walking the talk, and just by not saying anything, and just if you have a person in the line before you who is angry, shouting, screaming, and how you react and how you behave is an act of communication, and you are actually sending a message out of what your movement stands for. It's not the pages of Bhagavatam which are talking of being sthita pragya and completely wise and all, but it's seeing in action. So that's a very valid point. And I also acknowledge your point about what you said, the first point, that yes, it's important when we go out on at least public forums like television, media, it's important to have devotees who are skilled. And this is a lesson for us, that it's so important that when you are on that limelight and that focus, every word that you say and everything that you talk and express has such huge implications. And so many, I remember so many youth, it just caused so much agitation in the whole youth movement in our ISKCON management because of that particular incident. So thank you for sharing that. So this is, anybody else would like to share anything? So because I'm sorry, I can just see the PPT, or I can't see any raised hands, but so this was part one. I've just tried to break this presentation into three parts. One is Srila Prabhupada, the introduction, and we're going to talk of one more part. So we're going to have a short break, but before the break, I just wanted to call upon any questions that you have on anything which we have spoken so far, in relation to our presentation about Prabhupada, in relation to the mission of communication, definition of a leader, any other reflections, any other realizations that you want to share in relation to everything that we have done so far, before we take a 5-minute break. So anybody has any questions, anything, or more are set, and experts in the introduction of communication. So, okay. So fine, we can take a 5-minute break and we'll come back in 5 minutes. Is that should be okay, Prabhu? Vinay Prabhu?
Yes.
Yeah, because we have a session from 3 to 5 and we are at around 4 o'clock in 5 minutes. So we are halfway. So we can just take a 5-minute break and then come back for another 1 hour, right?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we can just start our part 2 and our concluding session. This was just one quote from Srila Prabhupada, which I'm sorry I missed sharing because we took some questions. But in this quote, Srila Prabhupada says, "It is nice you are taking advantage of every opportunity for spreading Krishna consciousness by speaking on radio, attending engagements, etc. That is the method recommended by my Guru Maharaj. Now you are practically demonstrating this fact with good results. So go on like this. You have all of Krishna's blessings." So this is it. We actually have Srila Prabhupada's blessings, the blessings of his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Prabhupada is saying you have Krishna's blessings. And he's talking about the program, speaking engagements, and a lot of other different things. We also have one more quote. We have this one from Lincoln. This quote is, "In this age, in this country, public sentiment is everything. Without it, nothing can fail. Against it, nothing can succeed. Whoever molds public sentiment goes deeper than he who enacts status or pronounces." Abraham Lincoln is trying to say that, more than even the law of the land, what is the public opinion is what matters. And that is what we as communicators are trying to define. And that is a space where we are trying to make an influence. So we are trying to get people to talk about us in a much more positive way. And we saw that how, different audiences were saying that it's important to connect if we want to distribute books, if we want to do more programs, if you want to distribute prashad more, if you want to get permissions for a Rath Yatra. So you can have everything going well for a Rath Yatra. You can have the congregation, you have the Rath, you have the deities, you have all the enthusiasm. But if you don't have the government permission to, have the Rath Yatra in your zone, if you're not allowed to, have any sound restrictions, you are not going to be able to hold the Rath Yatra. So this is important, that however you internally you may be, prepared. It's also important to have the people talking positively and feeling positively about you. And another example which I would like to give you is also this example, because I just mentioned Rath Yatra, that we had this whole tension happening between ISKCON and the management at ISKCON Jagannath Puri and the Gajapati, where they did not want us to, conduct the Rath Yatra on any other day other than which is the day of the Rath Yatra and the 10 days after that. Because many of you are leaders here, you probably would be aware that there was so much tension happening back and forth. There were talks which was happening. ISKCON had, the IIAC had actually appointed a subcommittee which was, having regular discussions with this management from Puri. And what it involved was actually, trying to get the opinion in favor of us from the management, which was the Gajapati, from the management of the temple, which was the Pandas. And of course, because it was a city which is largely influenced by the presence of Jagannath, also having a goodwill of the people around and gathering that support. So it took ISKCON almost 2 years of back and forth discussions with the management from Puri to actually come to an amicable conclusion, where they said that, okay, you can have the Rath Yatra, but you can have it on so and so dates. And they spelled out the dates to us. And they gave us some guidelines. So we did not want to do anything to disturb our relationships with them. So in keeping with, the win-win situation, and in keeping with our goodwill, we accommodated the guidelines which they had for us. And I think very soon, in fact, I think the IIAC is going to send out these resolutions, which are now finalized by the IIAC. So you can see that how, connecting with the external audience has such an impact. And this thing of Rath Yatra, there are so many such examples. I think all of you as leaders can even share so many of examples from your local city, where you can see a situation make or break because you had somebody against you or for you in relation to anything that you are doing in relation to communication as a leader. And what we're going to talk now about is the key audiences. So we spoke about them largely when we spoke about the partial list of people Srila Prabhupada connected with politicians, from police, he connected with a race car driver, with a businessman. So we are going to just consider that who are the key audiences. What do we mean by saying that we want to connect to them? And key audiences are individuals or groups that help us or hurt us in achieving our mission. So this is very important. Please, you may want to put this point down somewhere, that this, in communication we actually have this expression of audiences which help us, positive comes up, and audiences which hurt us. And you always want to keep in mind that when you're connecting to different audiences, you want to be in the space of that I want to have the audience help me to achieve my mission. So this is the key audiences, and we are going to actually look at some of the key audiences here. This is a very happening recent event, which has, all of you are aware of this, and not only all of you, but probably the entire country is now aware of what this event was when the Prime Minister of India actually launched this coin of Srila Prabhupada. So being part of the executive committee of 125th, when we were talking about this event, it was very challenging to get the Prime Minister to do this. But finally, our good offices in Delhi, through Yudhishthir Govind Prabhu, could manage to get the Prime Minister to agree and launch the coin. And when we were doing the bookings for this coin, initially, the number was very small, not very interested to get the coin. But across the globe, because I'm part of the global communication team, earlier we got requests just around 30 to 40 requests for coins across the globe. But after the Prime Minister released the coin, we got requests more than 360 requests, more than 360 from across the world. Because they realized that the Prime Minister of India has given this honor to Srila Prabhupada, which is unprecedented. There were many members from the parliament which were tweeting about this event. News channels were carrying this event. And people kind of just realized the scale and the importance of the Prime Minister being involved in this event. So this is a key audience, and it's so important that, a key audience like this can actually make or break any kind of, impact that you're trying to make in relation to your temple. Here is the list of some of the key audiences. You can see some of the key audiences are religious organizations. Like in India, we could have so many religious organizations, and I think it's especially valid in India. You have the Hindus. This may not be that valid in India, but it's something which is very considerable in Europe and Australia and places like this. We have communication devotees from there are always trying to connect with the Hindu groups, the local Hindu groups, because the majority government is always trying to overthrow them, not allow them to do book distribution, not allow them to hold festivals. And so these devotees have to actually connect with the Hindu organizations to kind of just, gain support and push the movement forward. So that's the Hindu. You can see the academics, they are important because if you would actually take the Bhagavad Gita, and if you would see the back cover of the Bhagavad Gita, what you would see is actually the quotes from scholars. And, the Bhagavad Gita has been around for such a long time with the BBT. And you and I may have given our lives to the movement, but your and my quote is not on the Bhagavad Gita. But we have quote from the academic because that's how important they are. If one scholar would say that, this is a great book and this aspect of this book is good, then all these scholars and a lot of people are actually going to take interest in what you have written. So that's the academic. Of course, the media, all of you would know how important it is to have the media on your side. Parents, and we just recently, somebody just spoke about that interview on India TV where some parents actually came and spoke vocally about how happy or unhappy they were in relation to ISKCON. So yeah, parents can become a key audience. Internal, we had somebody also talk about that. I think Nandula Prabhu was mentioning that how important it is that we are together within the movement. And together we don't have misunderstandings. We have open channels of communication, especially lateral communication, so that when that's strong, and when our hearts are open in communicating with each other, we can go together and communicate to the external audiences. Neighbors, now this is a big one. I think most of you will be aware that ISKCON Chowpatty They were having so much trouble from their neighbors who wanted to shut them down, as much as a case was filed in the Supreme Court by the neighbors. They were so upset with the morning program, which was happening in the morning at 4:30, the Mangla Aarti, that they filed a case, they filed it in the High Court. The temple kind of lost the case, went to the Supreme Court. And eventually the Supreme Court gave a ruling that the temple has to change the timing from 4:30 to 5 o'clock. So ISKCON Chowpatty actually celebrate, they actually conduct their Mangalarti at 5 o'clock. And this was the power of the neighbors, that all the neighbors got together and filed this complaint against the temple, and they changed the timing of the Mangalarti. So that's your key audience. You have the youth. I'm sure 60 to 80% of you here must have at some point led or connected the youth, and you just cannot underestimate the power that the youth has in being an audience. Different organizations, there are a lot of small and big different organizations. They can be political, they can be non-political, which can help us, which can make or break us. We have the governments, of course, which making big difference, and we have the anti-cult. The anti-cult may not be that prevalent in India, but it was at one point in the US and in the European countries around 18 to 20 years from now, where ISKCON was, being considered a cult, and a lot of people were getting, converted and being taken into brainwashing, and there's this whole thing going on. So these are some of the key audiences, and as leaders, you would definitely come across some of them, and you want to actually make an influence upon some of them. These are the general key audiences. What ISKCON communication looks into, the primary focus that we have in relation to our audiences is the government, is the Hindu organization, because we have devotees from different parts of the world, like Ireland, we have them from Mexico, we have devotees from Villa Vrindavan, Belgium, and they really have to work hard to connect with the Hindu groups to keep the movement going in these parts of the world. Our primary focus is the internal audience, different religious organizations. This was especially true when ISKCON was fighting to get the road in, I don't know if many of you would know, but we were on loggerheads in Bhaktivedanta manner with the government in trying to get a road, access road to Bhaktivedanta manor, and a lot of other religious organizations, especially the BAPs, they helped us to fight the government to get that road, and that road is now called the Dharam Marg. So that's the primary road which leads the London to Bhaktivedanta manor. Then we have the academia. As I said, the Bhagavad Gita has quotes from academia. We have the media, and we have the anti-cult. And here is a picture. This picture is actually taken in Oxford. And we had a conference of devotees which was organized to honor Srila Prabhupada, and you can see devotees as Karan Krishna Kshetra Maharaj, Mother Urmila, Mother Rukmini, Anutama Prabhu, I think we have Radhika Raman Prabhu. So these are the devotees and scholars. We have Krishna Kshetra Maharaj, who primarily stays in Oxford, and he connects to scholars and academicians. This group is important because when the government was declaring ISKCON as an anti-cult in these countries, it was members of the other faith and religious organizations who actually came and appealed in the court and told the media and the government that ISKCON is not a cult. So when the government heard from the majority organization, and then it heard from the people of their country who are in majority, that no, we know these people, they are doing good work. They are not a cult. They have a ground in, being a bona fide movement, is when the government lifted a lot of anti-cult restrictions on them. So that's how important it is to have connection. You can also see Ravindra Swaroop Maharaj here. And this is a group which meets regularly and connects to scholars. Some of them actually are teachers, and they are like very respected members in their own field. So they are scholars actually, who support us in a big way. So, and you can see this is Gohi Rama. So that's the short form of who is our key audience. So down you can see GOHIRAMA, government, organization, Hindus, internal, religious, academic, media, and anti-cult. So that is Gohi Rama, which is the key audience for any ISKCON communication devotee. So this is our primary focus. And now we will just get into, because we don't want you all to fall into a lull after a nice lunch. So it would be nice if we can just have a little exercise now, where we are going to list 3 ways in which each of these audiences you think which can help or hurt your mission. So you can do this as an individual if you are a leader in relation to being a department head, that how these audiences can help my department, or you can do it as a devotee, or you can be doing this as a manager of ISKCON or as a leader of your organization. So we have the audiences here, we have media, we have the government, we have temple devotees, and we have the congregation. So we just try to get a little bit of a mix of an internal and an external. Somebody would wonder that how can a temple devotee hurt me or help me? But somebody here just mentioned that it's so important to have the devotees on your side, and it's so important that we show ourselves as together so that we can accomplish what we need to do. So we'll just take maybe, I think 10 minutes where we can just reflect on this, all of us. Which are the 3 ways this audiences can help you. So you can write the plus 1, 2, 3 positives and 1, 2, 3 negatives in which the media can hurt you or media can help you. 1, 2, 3 government, the positives, and 1, 2, 3 the negatives. In relation to temple devotees, what are the 3 things that a temple devotee can help me to achieve my mission as a communication devotee or as a leader, and 3 things what a devotee can do which can hurt my mission. And the same thing, 1, 2, 3 congregation, how the congregation can help me, how it can be my asset, and or how it can hurt me. So we'll just take 10 minutes and we can just write these points. So I think, yeah. To one of the audiences. I think that would be good. Somebody would like to share. I think the media can help or hurt us. Yeah, we have Nanda Dulal Prabhu, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
So, yeah. So, should I mention for all of them or just one of those
Sure,
media?
sure. You can mention for all. That's also good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for media, I have some points. They can spread rumors or allegations against us, which usually somebody will always do, some selfish person will always do, or suppress them at source. So nothing gets published. They can also suppress our good work that we are doing, so much food distribution we did during COVID, or they can actually popularize our good work by publishing it often or on a repeated basis. Media can publish interviews of our devotees and highlight their social contribution, highlight their spiritual contribution, or they can keep on publishing allegations and scandals, that people keep alleging against devotees. For government, they can withdraw or grant special permissions to us. They can de-recognize us, or they can grant a special status as a bona fide spiritual organization. Government can snatch lands or award us special lands for our projects like Goshala, food distribution, schools, etc. Government can usurp control of our institution, alleging financial fraud. Like for Shirdi temple, they just took it over. Siddhivinayak temple also, they took it over. So alleging some financial irregularities, they can just take away all the control of the money. Or if they are happy with us, then they can grant a special financial status. Like right now, every donation gets an ATG recognition, ATG financial rebate. So it's all dependent on how the government sees us. For temple devotees, they can cause defamation because they are somebody who's representing the temple directly, or they can increase popularity of the temple. And temple devotees can increase wealth of the temple, or they can spend and in that way decrease the wealth of the temple by spending disproportionately. And for congregation, they can create a good image in society as being a very good example, a responsible householder, a well-behaved member of society, or they can cause a loss of image of our ISKCON society as being a fanatic society. So these are some things that came to my point of how these four can adversely or positively affect the image of ISKCON.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Prabhuji. I think even with temple devotees, when I was putting this together, and I was just putting the different audiences, and then when I was going through the key audiences, I came to the topic of the temple devotee, and I was actually thinking that can a devotee actually help and hurt? And just earlier somebody said, somebody was mentioning in our earlier session that yes, it's a space of a lot of moving ahead or moving behind as a movement. And this is your first area of support, because a temple devotee is your family. This is where your strength comes from. This is where your support comes from. And a devotee sustains into the movement by the association of a temple devotee. And if the communication here is weak, confused, misdirected, misunderstandings, involving, maybe jealousy, anger, frustration, it's actually going to impact all the other areas, as in impact the government, the media, the congregation, because you will have a devotee who is uninspired, who is frustrated, who can eventually go and say something not appropriate to the media, or just misbehave with the congregation. So sometimes we so much undermine this audience, the temple devotee. But this also is a big area where it can actually hurt or help our mission. So I just wanted to draw that, earlier in our communication courses, we were not talking this much about this key audience, but we are understanding that, as a movement is expanding and progressing, the internal audience is just as important. And Srila Prabhupada said that you need to boil the milk. So if this is a space where you are internally and externally uninspired, which reflects in throughout you as a leader who is misplaced, confused, who cannot lead to an internal transformation or an external transformation. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Nandavila. Anybody else who would like to share some, not all, even some points is good. As to you want to talk about the congregation, the government, you have had any experience where the media has helped your yatra, the government has helped your yatra, as to giving any favors or taking away favors, the congregation has hurt it. Anybody would like to share anything here? Yeah, we have Karuna Sindhu Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Please listen to Hare Krishna. Pranam Mataji. Are you hearing me, Mataji? Is audible?
Oh yeah, little louder will be good. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
In our place, we got exemption for land tax, and also.
Which place is this, Prabhu? Where are you from?
Tamil Nadu, Madurai, and Tirunelveli, Prabhu.
Madurai, okay.
Yes.
Prabhuji is from Madurai. Okay.
Yes, and Tirunelveli also. Actually, we got vacant land exemption from government. Also, with the help of media, in the part of media, we got a good relationship with public and as well as government officials. When we started beginning in small center, we don't have such a big finance or investment. But with the help of media, we got so many good peoples became a life members and got connected with ISKCON. With the help of media, we got this. And also during 1996, there was a child abuse case was very demotivated our goodwill. That time only we started ISKCON in Madurai slowly. But the media people helped us a lot. They consulted with us and how to publish this news in our local paper like that. We discussed with the media persons and they nicely they put the news without without losing of ISKCON. We also given the with the guidance of ISKCON communication. We also present the press news why it has happened, how what are the actions we taken like that we given. Now the everything media is asking us if anything on the abnormal cases they are calling us and they are discussing with it, then only they are publishing the news. This is a very good relationship medias in our places. And also with the government, 1998 we approached the local corporation commissioner at the time of temple construction. Just we invited for Janmashtami, and he came for Janmashtami small center. Only the ground floor construction was over. At that time, that corporation commissioner very satisfied with our invitation, and also while seeing the students they are practicing in Krishna consciousness is gone. He very much inspired, and he asked me, "What do you want to do from our government side?" At that time, our temple president asked, "Can you give me a tax exemption for this land?" Immediately, he sanctioned for tax exemption. So like this, we got tax exemption from government. And also from Tirunelveli, from Madurai to 300 kilometers in Tirunelveli, also we got temple. I mean now Tirunelveli only. Here in the ISKCON 50 years, we approached the commissioner and collector for the ISKCON goodwill, establishing ISKCON goodwill and everything. And we got the name, road name is Hare Krishna Road for glorifying Srila Prabhupada. We requested the government, local government, they given the name Hare Krishna Road. Also, regarding the temple devotees, in my experience, with if not maintain good relationship with temple devotees, it will be a very big problem to maintain long run devotees. So I faced for past 20 years experience. Some of the devotees got demotivated. They are collapsing the other devotees also. So it will be very, very important to maintaining temple devotees relationship. First, we have to hear from juniors and their needs and what they are struggling. So we have to maintain a good relationship with the temple devotees. Otherwise, we will lose the full-time devotees. In my experience, I got this point. Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you. Yes, yes. I think this point you said about I think media, that how they have helped you, and I think even in relation to the government, actually pan India, we are having a tax benefit. This is because of our good offices. And of course, recently we had the coin release. The temple devotees are our wealth, as you said. They are our resources. And so important to keep them inspired and encouraged. So thank you so much, Prabhuji, for that. Karuna Prabhu. We have Vasudev Prabhu. Yes, Prabhuji, please, yeah, welcome.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So I was thinking that our recent Mayapur land issues, what Mamata Banerjee government has done, it is also a classic example of how a good relationship with the government as well as media can help. So it not only provided the land, also saved a huge amount of money in the stamp duty and other things.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you for that. Yes, it's very true. I think in every temple, I think the government is so critical as to from the point of construction of the temple, not even construction as much as getting the land approvals to, consistently maintaining our status and continuing our festivals. The government is such an integral part of, our effort. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Anybody else like to share? Yeah, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Mataji, I want to share. I visited some of the temple and met some of the presidents. The president, they themselves was complaining me about the congregation. They were telling me many of the senior leader congregation in our area, they are not communicating with us. And there was a communication issue between the temple management and congregation. And that is happening in many of the temples. So communication between congregation and temple management is not good. That is not good for us, you know. That is
Yeah.
the problem.
So when you heard that, how did you feel?
So I was not feeling good, you know, and he was telling me, I was complaining him about some of the temples. So he was telling me there is a problem with the congregation members also. So the president himself was telling me.
Yes.
So
So
there
yeah,
was, so I found that there was a communication gap between congregation leaders and the president. So there should amicably meet and solve the problem. He was telling me that this congregation leader, he's his god brother, and they are not coming to the temple. They are not even coming to the temple, and they are staying there in that city from long time, and they are disciple of same guru, but they are not communicating, not in good terms. So that was not a good thing, you know.
exactly.
Yeah.
So here we see that we have a temple president, a manager who is probably is in a difficult space with the congregation not listening to him. There is no help in that area. And the congregation is feeling misunderstood, that the leader is not connected to me. So there's already a problem there. And then you, just as a bystander, heard about it, and as a temple devotee, you felt disturbed from that. So this is how it impacts. Everything is so interconnected to each other in relation to the devotees, the internal, the external. And we, of course, as a movement, have to go a long way in relation to connecting with each other to begin with, even before we go and actually connect to our external audiences. And we come to that a little ahead, that is actually a part of the main communication course, where we actually deal with each and every audience into detail, and we spend half a day actually talking and discussing the challenges and the areas where we can actually work towards making a change and a shift in relation to these audiences. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Mataji. Anybody else would like to share anything? One audience which I would like to mention, which we will cover separately in a separate session, and which is very important in today's time, and especially more so during the post-COVID era, is actually the social media. That is a space where we all live in today in a big way, and we connect to so many of the other audiences through the social media. So in fact, we have the congregation connecting with other congregation members through social media, through Twitter or other handles. We are connecting with the government. We find we get our news more on our phone than on the newspaper. So it's a big space of social media which can help us or hurt us. So we will take that in a different session, but I just wanted to make a passing reference to that. So this was a big area of our audiences, and I'm so grateful for all the contribution. And I hope you can stay in that space of reflection. Anytime that you feel, you can come back to these three questions, and instead of trying to make the shift outside, try to make a shift within you and try to see that, where I can help and where I can hurt the mission, and let me try to make a change with myself. So those are our audiences. And of course, we had interfaith here. I'm so sorry, I think I missed that. But that would be different religious organizations, as in it could be the Swaminarayans or so many Chinmaya mission, and much more prominent in the West, especially to gain support. So these were our audiences. And here you can see Srila Prabhupada is actually speaking to some scholars, which he regularly did. He spoke to members from all sections of the society. And here is a profound statement from Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada is saying that, yes, I'm getting some good opportunities to meet here several learned scholars Last night we had a meeting in the house of Mr. Abdul Rabi, and there were some university professors and a Dr. Abbott and Dr. Macmillan and many others, two clergymen and their wives. One Father Landlace was without wife. So there was a very good discussion, and by the grace of Krishna, I was able to give them some impression of this philosophy, that it is nicer than anything. Professor Abdul is Mohammedan and is writing a thesis of Sufi religion, and he was also impressed. Unfortunately, I had to eat there, but I accepted little fruits only while they were eating all sorts of nonsense, but at least they did not drink. So you can see the compassion of the Acharya here, that he is, here, a Vaikuntha man amongst, the Christians, the Muslims, the scholars, and he is working so hard connecting with all these audiences for the sake of his movement and for the sake of the goodwill of his movement. So we can see that Srila Prabhupada said that, that was his austerity, that, they all were eating and I just took a little fruits. And then the extent of compassion that at least they did not drink. So he was just trying to see the good in everybody. So this is a profound statement from Srila Prabhupada. And with that, we actually close our session for today, where we actually did 3 parts. We spoke about Srila Prabhupada as the excellent communicator. We spoke about the introduction to communications, what is ISKCON communications and how does it impact a leader. And we 3 more sessions coming up, which would be taken up by either Yudhishthira Prabhu or myself. And we will be taking other aspects of communication. So if we have any questions, we can take them now, or we could close the session. Any questions? Okay, I think you all are good communicators yourself. So thank you very much for staying with me, and for all your patience and for all your contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.